Hello and welcome into Sports Talk Live Buffalo Plus. He's our Bills analyst, Vic Carucci. I'm Jonathan Acosta, filling in today for Sports Director John Scott, who's not here for a very good reason. John and his wife, Heather, welcoming the newest addition to the Scott family this week, a beautiful baby boy. John told us wife and baby are all doing very well, so congrats to John.
Congrats, so happy for
John and to his family, yes. We'll see John again right around training camp, and Vic, that actually leads us perfectly into our first topic because, hey, we actually know when camp is getting underway now. So let's take a look at the schedule. Schedule announced this week. Joe Brady and the Bills will get camp underway at St. John Fisher on July 29th. 7 open practices, all starting at 8:30 a.m. The return of the red and blue August 8th at the new Highmark Stadium. And then after that, the rest of camp, Vic, is in Orchard Park. So fewer practices at St. John Fisher than we've seen certainly under Sean McDermott. Yeah,
it's interesting the way it has been really tapered down, that portion of it, because the one thing we knew about Sean McDermott during the course of his 9 seasons as head coach, and Brandon Beane would weigh in on this as well, is liked the remote setting of St. John Fisher, liked the bonding opportunity of getting the team there. I don't know that Joe Brady by any means is against bonding and closeness with the team and team building. However, he is taking a very different approach. And number one, the amount of time there, and number two, the time that they're on the field, having them out there much earlier, 8:30 a.m. practices, Sean preferring the later start in the morning. That's something to look at, makes you, of course, wonder, and not that anyone has said this officially, but you know there's a fair amount of sports science and body clocking and all of that coaches look at, teams look at. So I think that plays into it.
And certainly the earlier start times to practice, getting them out of that heat, which we've been there at training camp. It can get hot on some of those days out there at St. John Fisher. But also, just it feels like this is just another maybe example of Joe Brady just continuing to put his spin on things as he continues to take over.
Absolutely. And again, 36-year-old first-time head coach, the youngest hired in this coaching cycle. Sean was, I think 42 when he took over the Bills head coach at 2017. So by age 51, I mean, obviously you can get set in certain ways and certain patterns. And we could, as close observers of that team, sort of predict how things would be laid out in practice and every other way in the time Sean was with the team. With Joe Brady, we're going to learn a lot on the fly about him. And I think he, too, is going to do trial and error. So the earlier starts of training camp, he has talked about in the regular season, later practice times, which is kind of interesting. Does that have something to do with 6 primetime games or some 4 o'clock games, or just trying to find even the slightest tweaks that can be made? And I'm not going to say it's slight when it comes to practice time, but changing some of those things in addition to the bigger changeover in personnel and coaching scheme and all of that, to not only put a stamp on it, but find little ways to make the team better.
It definitely will feel different to not be in Pittsford for as many days as we have in years past. Still, I'm sure we'll all find a way to make our trip to Pittsford Dairy for some ice cream during those 7 open practices. Going into camp, there's the obvious, camp battles that we'll be watching, right? But there aren't too many that you would think of going into this offseason. You have the left guard spot, you have the CB2 job with Maxwell Hairston and Davison Igbinosun. But there's one that maybe we didn't expect coming into this offseason at an earlier point that we're certainly talking about now, and that's at linebacker alongside Terrell Bernard. With Dorian Williams missing all of the offseason program due to injury, it's created a big opportunity for rookie Caleb Elarms-Orr to get reps next to Bernard. And Vic, the reviews have been positive from both Jim Leonard and Joe Brady as it relates to the rookie.
Yeah, Joe Brady talking about how Elarms-Orr really took charge of the defensive huddle, and even when he heard the head coach's voice in his head on the headset, that it was kind of like he wanted everybody out because he's dealing with calling the signals and wanting to be focused about it. I guess I think didn't Joe Brady make the comment about, I'd like to see him smile a little bit more. He's a serious-minded guy, which nothing wrong with that, when you've got that responsibility. Look, I think the linebacker position at best is a question mark, and we're really not entirely sure, even with Dorian Williams healthy, do you have the solid guy to be there and start and no questions asked the whole season? I don't think it was going to go like that. I think this young man could emerge into the mix and maybe significantly, either if he's not the starter at the start of the season, which is possible, maybe he earns some playing time along the way, assuming Dorian Williams is healthy.
And Vic, it frankly feels like the Bills kind of need him to kind of grow up quickly, right? Because even as it relates to Terrell Bernard, he's the captain, right? But he hasn't necessarily put together healthy seasons here consistently, right? Even though he's so important to the defense when he is on the field. And then after that, behind Caleb Elarm-Zor, you're talking about Joe Andreessen as being the depth at linebacker. So the Bills really need him to sort of grow up quickly this rookie year.
And Jonathan, the key to all of this is look at the base of this scheme, 3-4. What does that tell you? It tells you 4 linebackers at the essence of the scheme are the key. The 4 linebackers, the 3 front guys, 3 D linemen, important people. I'm not suggesting they aren't. But really, when you design a 3-4 scheme, you're putting heavy emphasis on the roles of those linebackers, not only as people who can get after the quarterback or stop the run, but also drop into coverage. And you better have everyone on point for that.
That's right. And up front, Vic, now, Michael Hoy is not someone involved in a position battle necessarily like we talked about with linebackers, CB2, but someone that this team knows, and we know they're eager to be able to see him on the field because we got a glimpse of what he can do for this team when he was healthy last year. You talk about his versatility and everything he brought over when he signed from the Rams. And he's making great strides now in his rehab, already doing positional drills last week at minicamp, just 8 months after tearing his Achilles. And Vic, I think we get caught up in the rookies and the free agent signings, but having a healthy Michael Hoyt could feel like a big addition to this defense.
I feel, and I've talked with some others around the league about Michael Hoyt, and they said you get him back healthy. This Bills team gets him back fully healthy. And again, that is asking a lot for the nature of his injury, but it's not asking the impossible. And the finish of that sentence was this team will have a huge addition. And because, he was added last year, he was part of the team last year, but missed so much time. But getting him back, as it was described to me, it's like getting a new player. It's like getting a new piece to this very important puzzle that they're trying to build that is different. And the skill set that he has from, again, those who scout and coach this game tell me that it fits very well into this 3-4 scheme that Jim Leonhard's employing.
And someone who is a new name up front is Bradley Chubb, the big name addition to this front 7 this season. We know about his experience, not just playing, but playing in this 3-4 scheme that Jim Leonhard is bringing over, right? His leadership also is shining through, though. TJ Parker told us at OTAs or minicamp, I forget which one of the weeks, but he told us that Chubb invited him to go down to Florida and train with him. And Vic, that's something big for a rookie who's the top pick for this team in the second round, to be able to get that training from a fellow teammate at the same position who's been doing this now at a high level.
Call this the ancillary benefit of having Bradley Chubb on this football team. Having a guy who obviously has a considerable amount of knowledge of not only how to play in the NFL and play linebacker in the NFL, edge rusher in the NFL, but he can also bring to it the knowledge of, and especially of this 3-4 type of scheme, and impart that on his younger teammates. He becomes the coach in pads in many ways, helmet and pads. He's the guy in the meeting room that I think is going to have a lot to say with the interaction with position coach or Jim Leonhard, the defensive coordinator, and then on the field or on the sidelines communicate a lot of things. What I'm going to be looking for, especially at training camp when we're out there, is when they come to the sideline, Bradley Chubb coming over and having those conversations with some of the younger players, and that's what a helpful veteran should do. He's got to produce. They didn't sign him to be just a mentor, but I'm just saying that is a big plus for him.
The leadership, and maybe he can give him a few more sacks than Joey Bosa would also be good signs for this Bills defense. Let's stay on defense with one more name. C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He's a guy I think that we agree is the favorite to start alongside Cole Bishop at safety. But Vic, I think really his biggest impact may not even be his physical ability, but maybe the mentality that he brings to the Bills defense, the nastiness that we heard Brandon Beane say he's excited to bring to this team. Joe Brady's raved about it as well. I think it's something we've already started to see sort of manifest at practice as well.
It's going to be so interesting to see how this fits, because even though he would not have been, it's sort of a cliche to say this is not the kind of guy that Sean McDermott would have wanted on his team. Okay, put that aside. But what about the McDermott-type players that are still on this team? Cole Bishop being one of them, and going through that whole process, that program, they've got to. They're being rewired mentally in so many ways. And I think C.J. Gardner-Johnson, his influence, his outgoing approach to things, vocal, loud. You heard Josh Allen talk about it too. You hear this guy before you see this guy, and that's an okay thing. I mean, in terms of it being, as long as it doesn't turn into something that pulls the team apart, it can be a boosting thing. But that large personality with a guy like Cole Bishop, how does that play off of each other? Maybe it brings the best out of young Cole, or does it make Cole sort of say, gee, I don't know what the story is here?
For me, it's not even bringing out the best of Cole Bishop necessarily, but maybe the competitiveness and what it can bring out of the offense. Because one of the days I was out there, I saw him jawing with Josh Allen before they were really starting to get the drills, and Josh Allen, the biggest trash talker on the Bills, you bring a guy who's maybe his match on the defensive side.
Yes.
Training camp can already get a little hot and contest and everything. Not saying fireworks, but is it something where maybe that brings out the best of both sides of the ball, these two guys going back and forth?
Can I say bring your popcorn? Can I say that?
Well, we'll make sure to have our popcorn and everything. And coming up next...
Spill it all over the field.
Not too much bar on the popcorn either, maybe a Coke on the side and everything. Coming up next, we flip over to Sabres talk and the offseason moves getting started this week with Jarmo Kekalainen trading Michael Kesselring. Sabres analyst Paul Hamilton joins me to break down that trade next on Sports Talk Live Buffalo Plus. Hey there, welcome back into STL Plus. Jonathan Acosta joined here now by Sabres analyst Paul Hamilton. Paul, nice to have you back on.
How are you?
Good to see you again. After a slow couple of weeks in terms of Sabres news, it looks like we're starting to get the ball rolling here, Paul, and with Jarmo Kekalainen making his first noteworthy move of the offseason. So let's talk about it. Kekalainen trading Michael Kesselring to the San Jose Sharks. The Sabres and Sharks swap first-round picks. That moves the Sabres up 7 spots. But before we get to that draft pick and what that could mean, let's focus for right now just on the Kesselring part of this. Why is he, Paul, on the move just a year after coming here, really as the main piece in that J.J. Peterka trade?
It just turned into circumstances. 3 different injuries. He got injured in training camp. His first game wasn't until October 28th, and he came back too soon. He lost his speed, and speed is a big part of his game. And so when he played poorly, and he just never could get going. And what happened is he opened the door for 2 other defensemen. He was the main cog that Kevin Adams was after in that trade for J.J. Peterka. Right? Big, right-handed shooting defenseman who could skate. And he was very good in Utah. He was very good with Team USA at the World Championship. And then the injuries allowed Samuelson to step into that role and was many nights Buffalo's best defenseman.
Yes.
Also allowed Byram to sign a 2-year contract to also now be in the top 4. So where did that leave Kesselring, especially since he wasn't playing well when he was trying to fight through the injuries? So it was circumstances that happened. And then Lindy Ruff just got to a point where these other guys had passed him. So what do you do with them? Well, Lindy Ruff really liked Timmins. I mean, he made sure the Sabres signed, or got Timmins rather, traded for him. And when he was healthy, he was back in the lineup. Now he's ahead of Kesselring.
Right.
Now they make a trade with Winnipeg. Now they have 2 more defensemen that are ahead of Kesselring.
And you have Zach Metza, who even got playing time in the playoffs over.
Yep. And Metza also was ahead of Kesselring. So if you're Kesselring, he expressed his anger, to us in the media, that he had said, I disagree with Lindy Ruff and what he's doing here. And it was really upset. But I will say this, he never dogged it in practice or anything like that. He was trying to keep himself ready, and but he was an unhappy camper. Now I asked Kekalainen in the post-season press conference if Kesselring still wanted to be part of the Sabres. He didn't answer that question. He answered the meetings he's had with Kesselring, but told him that I know you were acquired to be a top 4 defenseman, but that's not available to you anymore.
Right.
So if you want a role, you're going to have to take a role in the third pair, which is, and the third pair
and
plays
that's a different skill set, right?
Right. And Kesselring thought, well, that doesn't fit what I do. He's not wrong.
Right.
And then Lindy Ruff put him in the lineup for 1 playoff game and played him for 4 minutes and 25 seconds. Now, I thought he played pretty well, actually. I had 2 notes in that 4 minutes and 25 seconds. One play, he saved a goal. So I thought he played pretty well, but he got in the lineup and sat there and watched.
Yeah.
So he never, in the media, came out and asked to be traded, but he asked to be traded.
The writing was kind of on the wall.
Let's all be honest here. He was not happy here in Buffalo and wanted a fresh start.
So that's one part of the trade. Let's take a look at the pick part of it, right? Because the draft next week in Buffalo, the Sabres move up 7 spots. And I don't think any of us are sitting here thinking Jarmo Kekalainen was thinking to himself, I really want to go up from 27 to 20 to pick a better player. I think, is this part of maybe something of an offseason strategy for Jarmo Kekalainen, potentially a lens into his thought process where this pick 20, not necessarily they're picking a player, but maybe it becomes more attractive as part of a trade?
Well, picking a better player could be part of because Jerry Fortin does an excellent job of a draft board, and I've been told many times that he's pretty much dead on with the picks. He has them, he's within a place or two of where the guys are picked. So they might have their eye on a guy who they knew wasn't going to be available at 27 and thought, well, he might be available at 20, maybe we can get him there. Also, Kekalainen might have the framework for another trade already in his head or already done. But the other team said, 27 isn't high enough. We need something a little bit better than that. Now, if you go from 27 to 20, that is equal to a mid-round, second-round pick. So it is something, and it may have sweetened another trade.
Now, we talk about a trade package, right? If they're going to go big fish hunting, it's not just going to be that first-round pick. It's probably going to cost them something else on the side. Could one of those potential moves this offseason maybe possibly include Bo Byram? Darren Drager reporting today that teams around the league have been discussing a possible deal for Byram. And I know Byram has been in trade talks. This isn't the first time that we're hearing it, but we are hearing it again, and he is 1 year away from walking to unrestricted free agency.
And I want to stress, all this is other teams are saying, hey, Jarmo, what's going on with Byram? Would you be willing to trade him or whatever? It's not Jarmo shopping him or anything like that. So I just want to be clear on that. But, you know, what if Dylan Larkin all of a sudden said, you know what, I would waive my no trade to the Buffalo Sabres? What would it take to get Larkin?
Well,
what kind of package would it take? If Byram is kind of wishy-washy on if he wants to sign a long-term deal, would the Red Wings be interested in him and maybe the 20th pick instead of the 27th pick,
right,
and then one of the other prospects or something like that, if all of a sudden he became available to the Buffalo Sabres? So could Byram be part of a deal like that? You don't know. So it's just one of those things where you're going to have to wait and see. But I wanted to stress that it's not the Sabres shopping him. It's other teams wondering, is he available? What would you want?
And very quickly, the timing is just a little bit weird considering they just traded Michael Kesselring, who you would think they might want to keep around if they were moving off one of their top 4 defensemen.
Exactly.
Correct?
Yeah, because that could push him up. So that indicates to me that maybe Jarmo Kekalainen has made some headway in negotiating with Byram and his agent. So because they do have to go get a defenseman now, because I don't think they're going to sign either one of the 2 they got from Winnipeg. So they got 6. Now, is it Ryan Johnson who comes up and is the number 7 guy, or do they go sign somebody else, a left-handed defenseman? So they will have to get another defenseman onto the roster than the 6 that they have, and Metza would be one of those 6 right now.
And it is something, when Kevin Adams was the GM, he would talk about how this is the time of year where you're kind of going back and revisiting trades that were worked on, talked about at different points in the season. Maybe a guy doesn't get moved off because the team is making a push or they wants to keep him around for whatever reason. And you can go back to that now. Now with the draft just a couple of weeks away, it really feels like this is the time that talk is starting to pick back up.
Adams is absolutely right about that. The things that you set the groundwork for at the trade deadline, all of a sudden you're talking about again right now because you've already got a framework.
Correct.
So
you're not starting from zero.
Right. So now you kind of add to it and see, well, is this still at the table? What will we have to do to maybe get this done now?
Right. So let's take a look at some of the housekeeping notes because, again, this is the time of year where things are starting to pick back up, and that's for good reason. The NHL draft starts next week, June 26th, right here in Buffalo. Then June 29th, that's the deadline to extend qualifying offers to RFAs. And then it's the start of free agency, just 2 weeks away on July 1st. Certainly Alex Tuck, the top name, will be watching as it relates to the Sabres. Coming up next, we bring back Vic Carucci to discuss a fascinating situation emerging in the NFL with a big-name QB prospect entering the supplemental draft. We'll get Vic's take on what's going on with Brendan Sorsby next on STL Plus. Welcome back into this edition of STL Plus. Vic back with me to discuss someone who is going to be one of the top college QBs to watch this season, but now he's heading to the NFL supplemental draft. Brendan Sorsby, a transfer to Texas Tech by way of Cincinnati and Indiana, ruled ineligible after being found to have bet on games involving Indiana, Vic, while he was a quarterback with the Hoosiers. Now he's going to the supplemental draft where a few QB-needy teams could maybe decide to spend one of their 2027 picks on him. Vic, for people who may not be super familiar with this, because we don't always see big names in this, give us a quick refresher on how it works, and could you envision one of these QB-needy teams like Arizona or Miami possibly investing a pick on Sorsby?
All right, I'll answer the last question first. It could happen because you said it. QB-needy is a big thing around the National Football League. The majority of teams don't have that guy. This guy could be someone to keep an eye on or develop over time. I don't see him being an instant starter, an instant impact player, but good enough to be with a team and grow, develop. Now some of the issues. Okay, so gambling, you mentioned why he is eligible for this supplemental draft. The supplemental draft is for those players who have lost their eligibility for the following season and sort of immediately did so. In his case, because of this, suspensions, you could have other issues. One player, Chris Carter, hired his agent at the wrong time and boom, disqualified from staying at Ohio State. So there are reasons why these players enter this, but you can't get too excited. It was 2019 that the last time the NFL had a player taken in the supplemental draft, Jalen Thompson, and he went to the Arizona Cardinals. He's put together a decent career, but the point is, and he was a Washington State player. The point is, you have to, when you bid on a player like this, and that's what it is, it's a tiered system. The teams that made the playoffs, the 14, are at the very bottom. The teams with 6 or fewer wins are at the very top. And then there's an in-between. And they rank them accordingly. It's not like the draft where there's a clock going, but you make your pick. And if you invest, say a team invests, Arizona, a third-round pick in this guy, that third-round pick then is gone for them in the 2027 draft.
And the supplemental draft is scheduled to take place about a week before the start of NFL training camps.
Yeah,
so that will be
July. Yep.
In mid to late July. Let's end on one quick note before we leave. This is the final edition of STL Plus for this summer. We will be back on streaming once football season gets underway. You can catch another edition of the Monday edition of Sports Talk Live with myself, Vic, Paul, and Adam Benini this upcoming Monday, 7 p.m. on Channel 2. Until then, have a great rest of your Thursday night.